Hey Monique, what's wrong? I don't know, it just seems like one thing after another, and I know these are like tests from God, but for why? Well, we know that God tests us to strengthen our faith and to develop our character. So know that everything that you're going through, you just have to trust God and that He'll work it out all together in the end for your good. Okay, I'm just gonna try my best to focus on God and just trust in Him and let Him work out everything. All right, I'll be praying for you. Hey everyone, it's Monique Renewed. Welcome back for another video. So this week's topic is going to be about learning how to trust God when it's hard. I know we all go through some trying circumstances, so I will give you a few tips on learning how to trust God in difficult situations. If you're new here, welcome. My name is Monique. I make faith videos helping you to build your relationship with God. So if you're into that, I will welcome you to subscribe. As per usual, I will be referring to my blog post over here. So if you want a copy of that, I will leave a link in the description box. So this discussion will be based off of Psalms 94, 19 through 20. This is David speaking. If you don't know anything about David, God promised him that he will be king over Israel, but before that he went through some trying circumstances, basically running away from King Saul, who was trying to kill him. So it says, when doubts filled my mind, your comfort gave me renewed hope and cheer. Can unjust leaders claim that God is on their side? Leaders who decrees permit injustice, they gang up against the righteous and condemn the innocent to death. So tip number one, as David says, is to expect doubt. I don't know about you, but when my circumstances don't look anything like how I thought it would, I start to be filled with doubt about God, doubt about what He can do, doubt about everything. And that is to be expected. We're not perfect. So, and we rely on what we see a lot of times, but the scripture says do not rely on your own understanding. So doubt will fill your mind, and it is totally normal. But with that doubt, don't forget about who God really is and that He will say what He says He's going to do. So I don't know what everybody else might be going through, but we all go through trials. And if God has made you a promise and so far your circumstances are looking nothing like that, I mean, clearly we've seen with David, he was literally hiding in caves and stuff like that. It looked nothing like I'm about to be a king. So doubt naturally will fill your mind. God will always provide you with comfort whenever doubt starts to fill your mind. To me, it's either through a devotional, through a sermon, praying to Him, or speaking to others going through similar circumstances. He will always provide you with comfort to reassure that you are in the right position and He will come through for you. We try to reason in our heads all sorts of ways that it's gonna possibly happen, but just leave that up to God and try your best to do your part, or to hold your end of the bargain. Tip number 2 is to remember what God has done for you in the past. I like to keep a journal, as I said about a million times, and about like everything, about my relationship with God, everything He's done, His promises, circumstances that happened in my life relating to that. And it is very essential to do some reflection, to go back and just be re-amazed at how God came through for you in the past and how this situation is no different. He'll still do it again. So I'll just look back at my journal and say, you know what? Despite what's going on now, I look back and I see how God has came through for me and He's never failed me yet. So that should also renew your hope and make you stand your ground and stand firm in God's word, and understand that this test is temporary. Whatever test or trial that you're going through is temporary, and He will see you through it in the end. So in Psalms 95 verses 8 through 9, this is God speaking. It says, do not harden your hearts as you did in Meribah, as you did that day at Massah. If you don't know what Massah means, it literally means test. In the wilderness, where your ancestors tested me. So that's so funny. God was testing them, and they were testing him. Anyways, but they tried me, though they had seen what I did. So when God was taking Israel through the wilderness, he performed many signs, many miracles. He showed them who he was, his character, and yet they still doubted him. They tried him, they tested him, they idolized other things, and they put, idols before God and all this stuff. And it was like, well, God has shown you literally who he was, and you're still, turning your back on him. So that's what I mean by remembering what God has done for you, by doing some reflection so you can stay grounded. Tip number 3 is to avoid comparison. And I am so guilty of this. I actually been through this the other day. Comparing my circumstance with another person's circumstance. Everybody's life is different. So what God does for another person, it might not be what he does for you. Or it might be similar, but it also might come out completely different based off of your life. So you have to trust that God knows what he's doing with your life, with you, and with your situation, and not to compare yourself with other people. Not to say, oh, well, this is what God might do for me because he did this for that person. So with our limited understanding, we don't know how God is going to turn the situation around for us. And we can't sit here looking up how, it's okay to hear other people's testimonies. That's not what I'm saying. But don't reason in your mind and try to do math and figure out everything that God is doing based off what he did with somebody else. So that's basically what I'm trying to say. That comparison trap, stay away from it, because it will have you going down some deep spirals. Tip number 4, when the wicked seem to prosper. So by this, I mean, you're staying close with God. You're doing everything that you can do. You're reading your word. You're talking to him, and you're trying to be consistent in what he's asked you to do. But you turn around and you see people who don't have a relationship with God, or even anti-God, anti-Christ, and they seem to be having it all together. They have everything they possibly want. Life seems to be going so great for them, and you're just sitting here like, well, what am I doing all this for if they seem to have it all together and I'm over here struggling? Trust me, I had those thoughts too. So when the wicked seem to prosper, do not take the opportunity to try to turn your back on God or give up on him. I'm telling you, this is a test of faith to see if you're going to stick with him despite what you see around you. You don't know what's going on in the background of anybody's life. So people, it might not even just be like, oh, when the wicked seem to prosper. It might be in regards to anybody. You don't know what's going on in their life. The main thing with social media, like everybody emphasizes, they only post their best, not their worst. So you might be over here struggling. Trust that God sees everything, everyone, and knows everything that's going on. So the best way I could put this is to mind your business and to, just focus on your relationship with God, and don't mind, other people who may even, talk bad about God and they seem to have it all together. Leave that up to God, however he wants to handle it, and just focus on your situation and the direction that God has for your life. Besides, in the end, it will be worth it once you stick with him. And the most invaluable lesson is the character that's produced within you. Once you make it out of this trial, you're gonna make out this trial as a better person, as a more resilient person, as a stronger person, stronger in faith, stronger in your mind, stronger in your emotions and your behaviors, what decisions you make. Trust me, it's gonna be worth it. And this is nothing that, any type of possession can produce within you. So it's not about the possession, it's about your character building that God is trying to do within you. Tip number 5, last but definitely not least, if you feel like you really can't focus your mind, your emotions, and your behaviors towards God, then I would suggest taking a or going on a fast. So you can either abstain for social media, which is actually what I'm doing right now. I'm just posting, but I'm making it a point not to, scroll on social media. So you can abstain from that. So you can avoid that comparison trap, or you can abstain from food as well. You can do both together, actually. So that you can take more time out to, talk to God, to be closer with him, to listen to him, to listen for his direction for your life, or just to wait on him. Most importantly, we forget that waiting is part of a trial, is part of a test. And that's the one thing that we do not like. We want things immediately. This is a microwave society, okay? So that's the thing, like, we have to wait. And unplugging from social media or fasting from food while you're praying to God, while you're communicating with him more, can enhance your relationship with him. So it can make you stronger. And yeah, so just like how Abraham, when God asked him to sacrifice Isaac, and Isaac was the very promise that God made, and he asked him to sacrifice Isaac, just like Abraham, he literally reasoned in his mind, okay, maybe God is gonna raise him from the dead. That's how much faith he had in God. He knew what God said, that this is the son which your descendants will come from. So how is it possible that you want me to kill him? He reasoned and said, okay, this is how God is going to come through. He's going to raise him from the dead. And this is a foreshadow of Jesus, if you didn't know. So is that what we're doing? Are we reasoning all the ways that God is going to come through for us? Maybe he's going to do this. Maybe he's going to do that. Not that you should be overly consumed, but just as much as we reason in our head about maybe how he's going to fail us, or maybe how he's not going to come through for us, or maybe he's going to disappoint us, we should be reasoning in our head how much he's going to come through for us, not the opposite. So yeah, that's it, everyone, for today's video. And I hope that you guys, if you're going through something, that you remain steadfast in the Lord. You continue being in your word. You pray, you talk to him. When those emotions rise up, you go to a quiet corner and let it out. When everything seems to be falling apart, trust me, I'm going through the same thing. Despite how everybody's life looks, it is what it is. Just know that God is faithful, and he also wants you to be faithful as well. So that's it for today's video. I love you guys, and I will see you guys next week. Bye.